It is now 2 o'clock and we will begin our meeting. Today's webinar is on Google Classroom perspectives. We will be seeing the perspective from the teacher, the students, as well as the parent perspective of Google Classroom. Without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Dr. Stephanie Garcia.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We'd love to know more about you. I'll introduce myself a bit more, but while we are introducing ourselves, please go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself. So in the chat box, if you can go ahead and tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you're looking forward to, that would be awesome. But yeah, so I'm Dr. Stephanie Garcia, and I'm one of the Education Associates at IDRA. I specifically focus on STEM and gender equity, and I help direct the Texas Chief Science Officers program here. So I'm a former middle school science teacher, so that's kind of the perspective I come from, and then as well as did some graduate research assistant work at UTSA with the engineering education. So my favorite letters in STEM are science and engineering, and then I have my awesome colleagues here who help make up the other parts of STEM. I'll let Dr. Johnson introduce herself now.
Good afternoon, everyone. Stephanie always tries to start a fight when we talk about the letters of STEM. No, we are actually all very much invested in all components of STEM. I just happen to be somewhat of more experienced in the area of math and technology. I am Dr. Paula Johnson. I am the director of the IDRA EX South, and we like to focus on equity. Well, not like to, we focus on equity in education, and STEM is one of the components of education that we know has a lot of inequitable practices, especially for girls and underserved minority students. So we try to do our best to provide multiple opportunities for them to engage in STEM and understand that STEM is all around us. So that is why we have our Chief Science Officers, which we're very, very proud of our students and our district partners. And so I will let Michelle take it away.
Hi, my name is Michelle Martinez Vega, and I am the Chief Technology Strategist at IDRA. And as Paula and Stephanie mentioned, we do kind of like to highlight each letter of STEAM that directly pertains to us. And I am the technology, so I'm the T. Oftentimes we hear the word STEAM or STEM as if it's one thing, and it's not one thing. It is science, technology, engineering, math, and art by way of design. So we do like to show that and showcase it so we all remember that STEM is an all-encompassing landscape that is very wide. Also, I get to work with Stephanie and Paula on the Chief Science Officers program, which is an amazing program, and the Valued Youth Partnership program, which is cross-age tutoring program that we're very proud of and that we are very excited that we've been hosting for I think it's been a little more than 30 years. And then I also do have the privilege of introducing one of our Chief Science Officers, Chief Science Officer Adeseli. We're very excited that she has joined us on this webinar, and she will be talking a little bit about the student perspective of the Google Classroom, as well as answering any of your questions. So if there's teachers out there that have questions, Adeseli is going to do her absolute best to address them. If she doesn't have the answer, then one of us might chime in. Zion, Paula's son, is also a comfortable user of Google Classroom, and so he might chime in as well. But we are here to help you guys navigate the landscape that is Google Classrooms. Adeseli, if you want to introduce yourself, and then we'll pass it off to Dr. Stephanie Garcia, and she'll take on the teacher perspective.
Hi, I'm CSL Adeseli. I go to Cass Tech High School.
Yeah. All right, thank you, Adeseli. I really appreciate it. And you know what? Yeah. So, all right, go for it, Stephanie. It's your show.
Okay, great. Well, if we have a poll question, let's go ahead and jump to that. I wanted to know before getting started, just to kind of see, what platform do you currently use? There's so many out there, and we are just channeling our conversation and centering it on Google Classroom. But we're really curious to see for all those on the call from Virginia, Texas, and Colorado. What are you using out there? And may not be your favorite, but go ahead and choose what you're using because that is what the question is asking. And so we'll let that kind of hang out here, and we'll go ahead and transition to our next question. I'll give you about a couple more seconds to put in your vote.
Stephanie, we have 21 of 26, so already 80% of people have voted. If we could just get the last several people to vote and hit submit, then we can go ahead and show the poll response right away.
I love it. I love polls. It's good to see everyone interact, and I love how you're adding things that aren't necessarily on the poll question into the chat box too. That's super. So great. Well, I'm excited to see what your results are. And it looks like, whoa, most of you are using Google Classroom. I kind of felt that might happen. It seems to be the most popular platform out there. And it seems most districts are using that, as well as Blackboard, Canvas, Seesaw. I see a lot of really great other things that you're using. Teams, yes, Teams is very popular as well. Great features on Teams. We could talk about all of these all day long. There's really great features. So as Michelle mentioned, we're going to be talking about the teacher perspective, the parent, and the student perspective. So but yeah, I'm excited to share a little bit of teacher's perspective. What I'm going to do first is kind of go over just some basic vocabulary, just kind of a teacher move. There's things on Google Classroom that have specific terminology. So I just want to briefly go over the basic features and the vocabulary. And then I'm going to just show you a deep dive of a tour of a kind of a dummy classroom that I created, a fake classroom, if you will. And so I just want to kind of show you some even more features through that. Feel free, if you get stuck on anything, to raise your hand. There's a little feature by the participant in chat box that you can raise your hand and jump in and ask a question. If I'm talking too fast, which I tend to do, feel free to stop me and ask a question. Or even through the chat box, you can drop your questions there, and one of my colleagues or I will help out, okay? Basically, looking at the Google Classroom, how easy it is anyways to create it, it's super easy. I don't have a paid account, a district account, because I'm not in a district setting. So I just used my personal Gmail and created a classroom. It was really easy. You just click the plus bar and create one. The first thing you got to do is you got to name it. And then you kind of set your roles and you invite students using a classroom code. Okay, so when you create a classroom, you might create one for each class period that you have. And so I just created one that said STEAM elective. And that's kind of what the thumbnail looks like. And I really appreciate the deadlines that pop up for students, just to kind of view at a glance what their deadlines are for each class. And then when you get into the main homepage, you'll see a banner at the top. I love creating and customizing banners. I'm going to go ahead and drop a YouTube link in the chat box for anybody to look at later, because you can really easily create your own banner at the top and then include Bitmojis, which are really fun too, right? And so that's what I did there. I watched the YouTube video and I was able to figure it out on my own really quickly. And so, yeah, I love this banner because I'm able to say, hey, up there, classwork, that's where you're going to find all your assignments. And then I can invite students using the code that I circled there. So this is really just at a glance, and then I'll get more in depth in a moment. Okay, so here, this is called the stream. Okay, so stream is like your home page. And so at the top, you can see, I don't know why it's kind of blurred out a little bit, but at the top, it'll say stream. That's kind of like a main timeline. And you can create messages or posts, and they can be for all students to see, or you can select the little arrow and select some students. So that's really nice, because as soon as maybe Araceli, she logs in and clicks into her classroom, she would see a post that's just meant from her, for her from me, right? And so that's really nice. And you can add quick links to it, or you can add YouTube links. You can have quick links to different Google Suite apps, like a Google slide presentation or so on. You can also post in advance. So I can create my post now because I'm working on my teacher planning right now, but I can schedule the post to be posted at a later time, which is also a really good teacher move. I really like, you'll see at the top in a red circle, you'll see a Meet link. So I love how on the paid version, which this is what it looks like, it's a little bit different. You have a couple new features on the paid version. But here you can create a quick Meet link so you can video conference with your students, all of them or some of them. So really nice shortcuts are on this homepage when you click on stream. So this is the stream page. There's another tab called classwork. And this is where all assignments are, okay? So whether, if you can go back one, for classwork, this is where you'll have all your assignments with due dates, or you can create just classroom materials. So things like reference charts, periodic tables, my science teacher is coming out, right? So any reference materials or things that you want all students to view at any time, you can house those here. And then you can also have assignments with their due dates. So you can see everything separated in categories. You can create categories, which are really great for each maybe unit that you're covering. And I'll show you an example later. Some of these are requests that have a deadline, but they're not mandatory assignments. Some of them are mandatory. So I also wanted to point out in the rectangle at the top, these are your shortcuts to your class calendar, which are really nice. I believe Araceli is going to talk about that later, how each class has its own calendar with due dates as well. There's your Meet shortcut, and then you have your own Drive folder. So folders that have all of your materials can be housed within there as well. The third tab is People. So these are all your roles, your teacher and student roles, and you can add teachers. So let's say you have a co-teacher you're working with or a teacher assistant, you can add them as well. And they can create assignments, they can grade assignments. It's really nice when they have that role. And then at the bottom, you can add students. So let's say you get a new student in your class that's enrolled recently, and you can go ahead and add them as well. They'll get an email, maybe to their district email with the classroom code and a link to join. And what I really love too is the action bar. So if I want to send like a quick announcement to all students, I can click the action bar, it'll select every student, and then I can send them an email. Or I can just select maybe 5 students who are on my leadership council, and I can send them an email, right? So it's really nice features here that I just wanted to quickly highlight. And we'll go to the 4th tab, which is grades. So for grades, this is your basic grade book, right? So for the whole class, you can see at a glance, you know, what assignments are pretty much finished, everybody submitted, which ones students might need a whole class reminder on Remind 101 app, right? There's really nice ways to see and kind of use this data to help inform your next move as a teacher. And so it'll have by name. I blocked out all the names on the left, but where it says sort by name, you can click on each student and it'll show their individual profile as well. So I zoomed in on one student, let's say it's Ian, and I can see specifically just for this one student, how are his grades looking, right? And so it's a nice just gradebook feature, and it's pretty easy to navigate. You can check in their submissions, you can grade them, and just as you normally would through any other platform. So it's pretty easy to maintain these assignments. So I wanted to just do a general overview of kind of the vocabulary and the features of Google Classroom from a teacher perspective. If I could go ahead and share my screen to show you guys my Google Classroom. I want to make sure everyone can view it whole screen. So this is just the basic Google Classroom. As I showed you earlier, this is our stream tab. So this is our running, you know, timeline, if you will. I always think about social media. And so I love it. It's got all of the assignments on the left, just deadline reminders for students to see. It has updates that teachers have posted new assignments. And as they scroll down, their peers might be writing things like, hey guys, I have a question about this assignment. Can someone help me out? And a whole thread can start to happen here on your stream timeline. as well as, let's say I'm using an outside app like Zoom. I can go ahead and say, hey, office hours this week, here's my office hours, here's the meeting ID and password, and so on. So it's a really great, just basic homepage feature. But when you're creating a new post, like I said earlier, you can kind of, I'll put, hi guys, so that you can see how you can schedule this later, or if you're working on a really detailed post for later, you can save it and come back to it. And you can always, like I said, attach your links to your specific documents in your Google Drive, or an external link to a website that you're using, maybe a Khan Academy video using YouTube. So it's really nice features that you can just add to your post. And then you can, on Remind 101, did you know on Remind 101, you can link your Google Classroom to it? It's really great. And so you can say, hey, check out our new post on our Google Classroom for the STEAM elective. We have this really great video that we wanted to share, something like that. So really easy. And like I said earlier, you can also just select students. So I don't have any students enrolled in this class, but I could collect just Ian and Araceli, for example, and I can just send this post to 2 students. So it's a really great feature. What else on this homepage? I think that's pretty much here. On the second tab, I wanted to show you, that's a really great feature too for those pop-ups. I wanted to show you some classwork kind of adaptations here. So when you can create assignments, you can create quizzes, all internally within this one spot. You don't have to link other files unless you already have them existing, you know, in other platforms. You could always link them here. But you can also do poll questions, which are really nice for warm-ups or ticket outs. You can post material for each unit. So let's say you found really great resources on Newton's laws of motion. Well, you can have material block with all of those resources, which are really helpful for students. And you can create topics or new categories. Like here, I have 3 categories: environmental science, physics, and chemistry. So you can create new tabs and new categories, however you'd like to organize this. And so I wanted to show you really quickly, one of our previous webinars, we talked about offline learning, and we talked about how some students obviously don't have access to the internet. So Google Classroom may not be something they can access every day, but maybe they have internet connectivity for like 1 day. And for asynchronous learning, they can check in at that one time and pull up their assignment. So I made a little assignment here where it's like a tic-tac-toe activity where students can basically just choose 3 out of the 9 assignments to do them. And let's say you give them a whole month or 2 weeks to do the activities. And so you have this tic-tac-toe activity board that's printed. Maybe they can pick it up in their breakfast or lunch line at their school campus. Or maybe during that one time that week, you can also download this to the device and you can reference it the rest of the week. There's also offline features for Google Classroom, so that's really great too. I think somebody else may talk about that a little bit later. But this might be an option for some of you who are just kind of posting one assignment and they have 2 to 3 weeks to finish it. And you can have the print option or the online option here. So that's really nice. Another thing is extra credit. I wanted to show you how for this assignment, I can assign extra credit for a specific student. So here where you have that arrow, you can always say, okay, Araceli wanted extra credit. Let's say she has a B+ and she wants to get to the A, right? So she's requested extra credit, I don't know. So I can create this assignment and I can just send it to her so only Araceli sees it. So that's a really great teacher option. Go ahead and cancel that. What else down here? Online modules. I love online modules. We did another webinar on this a while ago. Webinars, we have so many. I think we've been doing this for 12 weeks. So if this is your first one, you need to go catch up. There's a ton for you to see. I talk about online modules, especially with Newton's laws of motion for online science learning. And you can post something like this. It's almost like a task sheet for the week, or you can change it for, you know, they have 2 weeks to complete this module. And it's just chunked into smaller tasks, right? So you have this one module and you have your thought question, your content for them to review. Down here, you have some kind of peer collaboration opportunity. And then lastly, a reflection, right? And so students can have a really long time, depending on your timeline, to complete this. And so this is nice because this one Google Doc that I posted in Google Classroom launches them to all the other platforms that we're using for this unit, like Padlet and Flipgrid. Okay, so I just wanted to show you how you can still use Google Classroom to organize yourself, and then you can still use all the other fun platforms that you're used to using. So I just wanted to show you that as a teacher, you want options, right? And then so after they complete the online module, I put here that they need to complete a reflection. So once they've finished all the tasks for that module, I want to know, how would you rate your level of understanding on this topic? What's an aha moment you had within this unit? What's an area that you want to improve on? What was your favorite part of the module, your least favorite, just so that you get that teacher feedback as well, which I feel like we've talked about this a little bit at IDRA, is teachers maybe aren't having that time to reflect on their own teaching during this time, right? Because we're flipping classrooms overnight and we're trying to meet a demand very quickly. So these little tricks here are really easy to use with Google Forms within Google Classroom. And then lastly, as I said earlier, let's say you love Flipgrid or Seesaw, right? You can always link those things into here, and you can still have students turn in their responses or their reflections so that you're cued as a teacher to go check in on Flipgrid or Seesaw to see what kind of activity has been made there. So really easy way to just upload assignments or, like I said earlier, materials, however you want to use it. And then I believe others will talk about the class drive and the Google Calendar, so I won't get into that. But as I said earlier, this is the way you can invite students by using their class code. So anytime you create a new classroom, it will have a designated code. And you'll see it here when you haven't added students, but it'll go away once you start adding students. So always go back to Stream and you'll see the code here, and you can always create a QR code too. There's lots of features for you to get that out into the universe for people to be added to it. And then grades as well, it'll start to check off, whose students, whose assignments are missing or completed and you need to grade, and it keeps track of all of it for you pretty easily. I found out too that there's a lot of new features that are just always popping up. It's nice to go watch some Google Classroom updates. Like there's lots of blogs and forums for you to learn how to leverage a lot of these tools and the new features as well. So always stay up to date on those, because I think like a new one is students can now message you about a certain assignment within the assignment. So that's really a nice way to provide immediate assistance and feedback for that student. So I'm gonna stop talking now. I think that's all I have for the teacher's perspective. I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen, but feel free to jot any questions in the chat bar, and then I'll go ahead and address those while my next colleague takes it away.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and go over student perspective slides. This particular presentation is going to be available after the session is done. So once the webinar is over, we will be providing everyone with a link to the recorded webinar as well as this slide deck. So if you need to refer to it for any reason, feel free to do so. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just kind of give you a quick overview of what a student sees. So if we look at the first bubble here, what I want to direct you to is this menu option. So this is the menu option for Google Classroom. So where you see this, some teachers call it the hamburger or the hot dogs. I just call it the 3 lines. But when you click there, a menu will open and you will have access to all of the classes, the same ones that you see here, as well as the calendar and the to-do list and a classwork link. And that's really nice because, as Stephanie mentioned, when you are in Google Classroom, you see that there are many ways to get to the same things. So when Araceli is showing you her vantage point and when Zion is showing you his vantage point, those are the 2 students that are helping us today, you'll see that they navigate differently, but that's okay because Google understands that and they realize and they've built it into the system. So there are multiple ways to get to everything. When we look at the second one here, this is the class dashboard. So these are all of the classes that the student has access to. When we look at the bubble that says 3, what you see there is that students, it's a little plus sign, and students can add classes. As Stephanie mentioned to you, the teacher does have a class code. So if a new class comes up, you can click that little plus sign, put in the code, and then the student will have access to the class. And then next to it is the apps grid. So the Google Apps grid, as well as those 3 lines that are stamped here with number 1, are always accessible to your students. So if they have to jump out of Classroom to another application that Google offers, they can. If they need to get back to the classroom, they can click that apps grid and get back to the classroom dashboard. So they have a lot of options to go in and out as they wish. And then the last little bubble that we see here is number 4. And that is the student profile image. And if you have students that are sharing computers, you want to make sure that you kind of direct them to that profile picture so that they can make sure that they're in their account. I'm a twin. So let's just say I was a student and I was doing online classroom. I could easily have the same class list that my sister has. So it would be important for me to make sure that I'm in my profile so that I'm doing my work and not hers. So that's just something to keep in mind. There are households where there's only multiple students and only one computer. So again, it's just something to keep in mind. All right, so we'll go ahead and progress to the next slide. Here is what the actual class looks like. So once you're from that dashboard and you click on a class, then you're gonna see the upcoming assignments. So anything that is coming due, and right now there's nothing due in this class. You'll also see a little section here where students can share with their entire class. That means the classroom and the teachers are gonna see that. And then finally 3 here, well, it's not finally, but on 3, what you'll see are the assignments and the announcements that have been submitted by the teacher or the fellow students. 4, we'll have, I have these 3 dots here. 3 dots always means more. I encourage you to always click wherever you see 3 dots, just click it, see what other options are being made available to you. In this case, when you click 3 dots, what it's gonna give you access to is a link. So if a student wants to privately message the teacher because they're not sure what the announcement meant, then they can click that, get the link, email it to the teacher under the People tab, and then be able to maybe address some questions like, this is what it says, I'm unclear about XYZ, can you please provide clarification, or whatever have you. But that will take you, this will provide you with the link for this individual card. If you needed the link for the one above it, you would click the 3 dots there. But again, 3 dots almost always in every program I've ever used means more. So just click it, you'll see the options, and you never know, it might just open up an entire world for you as far as features. All right, so we'll jump up to 5, and this is the main menu for the class. Okay, so 5, 6, and 7 is the main menu, and 5 is stream, and stream is it happens to be what we're looking at now. Okay, 6 would be the classwork. So under 6, students will find a list of all the assignments that they've been given. And then 7 is people. So when you click on 7, you'll see the list of all of the students that are in this particular class, not the entire school, but just this class. So if a student needed to ask for some assistance in this class, they can directly either message the teacher of the class. Maybe there's a teacher assistant, a student and a teacher, or a co-lead, then you could message them, or you can message any of the individual students. So if you're missing one of your classmates that you normally sit next to and that you normally collaborate with, then you can simply click on their name, and it'll have a little envelope, and you can email them directly without necessarily knowing their email address. All right. Okay, so here on the next screen is what we see when a student actually drills down into a lesson. I know there's a lot of stamps, but don't let that confuse you. So this first stamp is simply the name of the assignment. When we look at 2, you see the number of possible points the student can receive from completing this assignment. Under 3, you have the work card. And you actually have to click on the plus to add or create your assignment. And so if you look down here where this arrow is, this is kind of an, if you clicked on the plus, what you would see. And so you have an option to link. So if a student did the assignment in like Word or Excel or something, another program, like CSO Araceli takes a lot of different computer courses, and so she's learning how to code and do things like that. So if there is another program that she is using to complete her assignment, she can just get the link, and then she can click on the link feature here to assign it. Again, if you're using Word or Excel or PowerPoint, then you can attach a file. So you're not limited to just docs, slides, sheets, and drawings. Even though those are great productivity tools, you may need other functionality, which would require using a different software. So again, the students don't have to necessarily be locked into just these resources here. All right, so let's go ahead and jump down to 5. And what 5 is this mark is done. So as we all know, students are doing their assignments and they might have to leave and come back to that assignment. It might be a big project, or it might just have multiple steps in it. So it may take more than a couple of days to complete. So as a student is working on their file, if they're working on a docs or slides or sheets, once it's complete, they actually have to mark it as done, which is this big green button here. If they don't mark it as done, then the teacher's not going to realize that it's time to grade it. So again, if once they hit the create, they can link the file to this particular classroom page. I'm sorry, classwork page, but it won't be ready to grade until they hit mark is done. So you may find some teachers out there that they are talking to a student that says, I'm doing my work, why aren't you seeing it? I finished that, why didn't you grade it? It may just be that the student forgot to click mark is done. So they need to go ahead and click that button to submit the assignment and let the teacher know that it's available to be graded. Okay, so under 6 right here, you have the private comments that we've been talking about. So if a student needs to privately comment to their teacher about this particular assignment, then they can send a message and then just click this little send arrow and it'll go just directly to the teacher. Or if the student is seeking help from the entire class, like, hey, what resources did you guys use to complete this task? Then they can put it here, send it, and then it's going to go to the entire class, and then they can get feedback on this on this work from their entire class. So there's a lot of options here for the students. And then now we're going to go ahead and jump into the student perspectives.
Hi, my name's CSO Araceli, and I go to Cass Tech High School, and this is how I use Google Classroom. So the main homepage will show all of my classes, and then usually if I have to do something will come up at the bottom. If I go to my class, then it'll show me the important stuff on the stream, and then the main stuff will be on classwork, and it'll show me all the things I need to do, certain class stuff and like subjects. If I go to the calendar, I can see what stuff is due. If I go to my to-do, it'll show me all the stuff I need to do, and I need to do all of that. If I want to talk to my teacher, I can use a private comment on one of my assignments. So I could go to add private comment and then ask her about something. You can add and create stuff using other Google applications such as Google Docs, slides, sheets, or drawings, or you could link in your own thing, and you just copy and paste your link. If you want to add a class, there's a button over here for adding classes. You can get rid of classes by unenrolling, or you could just organize them by using the move. I'm navigating to my class tech bands. As you can see, I have no upcoming assignments, or else it would show me that here. If I go to classwork, it shows me my classwork. It shows me the people in my class, so if I wanted to ask like one of them for help, I could ask them for help by emailing them.
Hello, my name is Zion Johnson. I'm a 7th grader at the JSTEM Academy, and I'm going to be showing you how I use Google Classroom. These are all my classes. I have them set up by how I take them. My first period, second period. And I like how every time a new assignment comes up, it'll tell me and when it's due, so I can set a schedule through the week of when I'm going to do them and how I'm going to do them. So at the first part of the week, I'd usually do an assignment from here. And because it looks like it's all gone, I go here to check all the classwork. And here's the newest one. Second period, it also says upcoming and telling me which ones are due now and which ones are going to come in the future. Like this one. It's pretty much the same through each class that I have to do this. It does get easier as you learn how it all works. I've been using Google Classroom for, I think, 6th through 7th. And I have many classes I've gone through, and it all gets easier as you go through, because then you can like decide on different ways you want to use it all.
So that you can customize it for yourself. Okay. Is there anything you don't like about Google Classroom?
Well, not really. It's just sometimes there's a lot of work.
Okay, you can't change that part.
I know, but it just all comes at one time, and then it's hard to set a schedule.
Okay.
But other than that, it's a great program.
Do you communicate with your teachers through Google Classroom?
I can by sending either messages with the class, or when I'm here to turn it in, I can get class comments for the assignment and private comments to my teacher, because I may need to tell her something, and that's only for me and her to know.
Oh, okay. So you can have privacy. Okay.
All right, so we'll go ahead and go back to the slideshow, but again, I just want to thank CSO Ottaselli and Zion for showing us how they navigate through Google Classroom. They did a tremendous job of sharing with us. I just want to kind of, before I pass it on to Paula, Dr. Paula Johnson, I wanted to reference a couple of things. Google is always updating. I think most of you probably are aware of that. But they are always updating. So if a feature doesn't currently exist, look for it. See, I mean, it might be coming down the pike. You can always email the developers. I know that sounds like a far-fetched thing that the developers of Google are listening to teachers, but it's not. I mean, they love teachers. They want to hear your feedback. They want to know what you want so that they can create it and make it a tool that you're going to be happier with. So you can do that. You can email the developers. Usually within the programs, there's like a question mark, or there might be a support button, and you can send your questions or your wishes there. So please feel free to do that. Additionally, as Stephanie mentioned, offline is something that we need to always kind of be mindful of. So as we're creating assignments, we may want to create assignments that students can do while offline. If students can only access an internet connection once a week, then we want to make sure that they have the ability to do the work that we're asking them to do while they're offline, and then they can come right back online, and all their assignments can sync. If we plan for that, then we're setting our students up for success. So take it away, Paula.
Oh, so that was my soon-to-be 8th grader, Zion, and asking him about Google Classrooms is a really great way. Like, it's a way for us to communicate. And so the reason I say that is because this conversation seems extremely familiar for a lot of parents. What'd you do in school today? What'd you learn in school today? What have you guys been doing in school today? Nothing. Or what I used to really abhor hearing from my own children was, what you do in school today? Oh, I did some math. I did some science. As a math educator, I know that we are very specific in what we are providing instruction on. And so, we try to put it in kids speak or student speak and make sure that they understand the objectives that they're doing at the time that they're studying. So when you hear, oh, nothing, Google Classrooms gives you an opportunity for your student to sit down and actually talk to you about what they're doing in school with some foundation. If you go through the backpack, God forbid, you don't know where anything is, but this is a way for them to deliver information for their students, the teachers, to deliver information in a way that helps keep track. Trapper keepers are a thing of the past when it comes to the digital world that we're living in right now. And so it helps the students keep track of what they have turned in, what they owe their teacher, when it's due, how they're supposed to be submitting it. It also provides a one-stop shop for teachers to provide the assignment, any links to other online resources they need, links to be able to study from as far as research, things like that. You can put any format. So you can upload PDFs, you can upload words, you can do a PowerPoint slide, or you can link to YouTube videos or a video that you've made yourself and have in another, like a shared drive. So it's just really easy to visually see what your students are up to. And I like it, excuse me, I liked it this year because it put the responsibility on my son. I am that parent, so I have always tried to, keep track of all of our children's grades, but this makes the responsibility their job. And it's very simple to say, oh, this is what I have due, or this is what I have coming up, or, you don't have to write down when your tests are because it's all right there and it's all integrated. All of his teachers, the screenshot that you see there is the 6 teachers that he has that all use the same platform. I can even hear from the counselor to let us know certain things, or the librarian can pop in with a note through the teachers. So it's really helpful to keep us informed of what's going on and when it's going on. I asked for permission. You have to make the request. It does not automatically go to the parents, even though the students have an account. So both of our children that are still in school have Google Classrooms. Zion, who you saw in the video, has been using this whole school year that he was at. Well, he's been using it for 6th and 7th, but all information delivery, all content delivery of assignments and what have you, this year has been from day one. Last year, it was kind of touch and go. He was at a different campus. Now that he's at the STEM Academy, not only do they all have one-to-one Chromebooks, they use Google Classroom for everything. So it was really quick for him in comparison to his classmates to start off the beginning of the year. He already knew Google Classroom, was fairly familiar with it, but then to use it every day, every week, and communicate with his teachers and classmates that way has been phenomenal. But as a parent, it wasn't until this year that I realized I could get a daily summary. The daily summary sends you an email and it'll have the logo and it will just say the date. And you get information on missing assignments. So it'll tell me any missing work, any assignments that were missing that he still has to turn in. It tells me when it was assigned and when it was due, so that I know, was this 3 weeks ago? Did you just miss it yesterday? Which is kind of important as far as grading is concerned. It also lets me know anything that he has. So just like Araceli and Zion showed you how their upcoming assignments are listed, It will tell me what's upcoming, when is it due, which teacher is it for, and they can also make announcements, like I said, through either the counselor might let us know what's going on. I see that someone, Stephanie's saying she loves the daily summaries. It's really helpful because that way I'm not asking him, but it also, again, opens the door for conversation where when I get it at the end of the day, especially since we've been home, that I don't have to feel like I'm on him. Instead, it's just like, hey, I just got your daily summary. I can print it out and say, this is what we have to work with. And so it's not, I'm not harping on him. It's his responsibility. And I'm just reminding him, I'm not nagging him. I hate that feeling of when you're, it's because you want your children to be successful. But it's really easy to just say, hey, this is what's due. Where are these assignments? And then he can tell me his progress and what he may have turned in since I got the email. So it really helps that conversation move along very well. And in an untense, there's no tense feelings or any anger or hurt feelings, I guess, about that. And so I didn't want to do pros and cons. I think these are all pretty much pros. I just put them in this. So a summary as a parent is you get timely information on assignments and tasks and the deadlines. It's an integrated way for two-way communication. So like Class Dojo, which I love for my younger student who is finishing 5th grade. Class Dojo, I can communicate with the teacher, but it comes to me. It's not like his Google Classroom where he's talking to the teacher. That's just for parents. I like that Google Classroom has a way for them to talk among the class, and then privately between the teacher and the student is really nice to have. The built-in calendar for study time. My son is extremely linear, and so he needs to see the days. Making a list isn't really helpful. He needs to see it on a calendar, so it's really helpful for him. So some of the not so great part is that, so hyperlinked content that's posted, like when Stephanie put in the YouTube link, that is something that in the daily summary, as it's listed in my email, I can click and access. But files and things like that I might need to print for him, I don't have access to unless he emails it to me. So only if I have a hyperlink can I, or an image or a video directly in the message, can you access as a parent. Otherwise, you either have to go into their account or they have to send it to you through email. And the other thing, I'm glad that a question came up about grading, like in the summer. Everything since we've been at home has been assignment based. It's either done or it's not. It's complete or not. You submitted or you didn't. However, during the regular school year, grades do not, the teachers communicate how much a particular assignment is worth, but you can't see the grading as a parent in the summary email. I have to go into the separate parent portal that our district uses for everything from library books to meals to grading. And so I wish that there was a way to link the two so that we didn't have to be in two different programs or applications at the same, or to get all of the information. And then the last thing is that I cannot communicate with teachers through the daily email summaries. I have to go through their email. And again, the parent portal gives me their information. And so I have all of my teachers. I do get direct emails from them in Gmail. However, that's a third application that you're having to use. So it would be great to be able to use them all together. And but for the most part, I think Google Classrooms is a really amazing platform for the students and for the teachers. And another thing is, I know that the poll that we just had showed that so many people are using Google Classroom. One of the main reasons is because of Google Chromebooks. Both of my children have their own Chromebook. I have a Chromebook. And so when they deploy and use Chromebooks, which I think are the best for students, just for everything being in the cloud, that's another reason why Google Classrooms is so readily available and used, because it's part of the actual device. So that there's that. I think that if more, well, I'm also just a Google user, but I think as more things are developed, I think Classrooms will get even better. And I do think it's one of the best out there. So that's about that for me.
So I like that you added that, Paula. With Google Chromebooks, it's not possible to really load up software. It's really, those devices are meant to be used as kind of almost like tablets. Everything's meant to be in the cloud. So yeah, I mean, a lot of schools do opt for them. They're very durable. There's a lot of awesome reasons to use them. If school district is using Google Chromebooks, then more than likely they're using the Google suite of applications, which Google Classroom is in there. So now we're moving into the question and answer part. If CSO Araceli wants to unmute her camera and her mic, then if anybody has questions, you can do the same. You can unmute your camera and your mic and ask away. We're here for you. We'll give a couple of minutes for that, and then we'll wrap it up.
Oh, I did want to mention Ms. Rivera said she didn't know about the daily summaries. I didn't know about them either, and so it just happened to be that one of my son's teachers mentioned it, and all you have to do is send a request. If they're using it as a campus, then anyone of, like, as I know her son is moving into middle school, any one of the teachers that has access should be able to give her or sign her up for daily emails. It's really simple. You just ask. It's just that you can't get into their Google Classroom. You'll never see it the way they see the platform. It's just an email.
Okay, there was a question about the 2 student perspective videos, and yes, they are on the IDRA YouTube channel. The link is listed on the PowerPoint presentation, which will be made available on the IDRA website. And I did want to ask CSO Araceli, what was the biggest learning curve for you with?
In middle school, I used to live like out in the country, and I didn't have good Wi-Fi or computers, so I had to use my phone. And it was always really hard to like access Google Docs on your phone, because then the letters are like all over the place, and it's just really hard. But when I got to high school and then I got a computer, it like fixed everything, and there wasn't really a problem. So I guess
when you got to high school, you also moved to the city, so your
with Wi-Fi.
changed. Okay.
But that's probably about it. It's a really easy application to figure out.
Do you find that do you have any teachers that use the offline feature, or do all of them just pretty much use the online feature?
I didn't know there's an offline feature.
Ah, okay, so no, they're not. Okay, well, I guess we covered everything. It doesn't seem like anything's coming up, just a bunch of thank yous. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and thank CSO Araceli. I really appreciate your time. You are amazing. So we'll go ahead and we're going to close out. We want to respect everyone's time. So just kind of a few housekeeping things. There is a certificate of completion that you can access. IDRA is providing an hour and a half worth of professional development to you. So all you have to do is either scan that code or go to that bit.ly link.
Michelle, I also added that the webinar will be posted once it's processed, and so they can always go back and share it with others, and also grab the QR or link if they don't have it now.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Paula. Okay, and then also IDRA, if you don't already know, does have a whole series called Learning Continues, and it's IDRA's response to COVID-19. And so all of the webinars, all of the resources that we are using in any of the webinars are going to be listed there. So if there's apps or help guides or anything, or videos such as the student videos, they are listed on this website here. And then we also have the IDRA YouTube channel. So you feel free to subscribe to it, and then you'll get updates every time we post a new video. And so we're posting videos weekly. So please feel free to visit that site frequently to access all of the videos. But here's a screenshot of the resources that you'll see. So there we have weekly newsletters, we have weekly policy updates, and we also have our weekly webinar series. So tons of stuff for you guys to watch or access as you need. And then again, the YouTube channel. To subscribe to it, all you have to do is click the red subscribe button that's over on the right once you actually access the YouTube channel. And it's linked on our IDRA website, which is www.idra.org. But feel free. You'll see a lot of CSO videos on there as well. So if you're not familiar with the Chief Science Officer's program, feel free to go through those. It is a student voice STEM initiative. So these are student leaders that advocate for STEM on their campus. So they work with the teachers and the principals and their fellow students to find out what they want to learn and how to drive STEM in a more meaningful way on campus. So I invite you guys to check out those videos, but we have, like I said, tons of stuff on there in all of our webinars. And then finally, we have our contact information. Feel free to reach out to any of us. I mean, IDRA is here for y'all. We want to support you in any way that we can. This webinar, just like the rest of the webinars that we've been providing, are all part of IDRA's EAC South, which is our Equity Assistance Center South. We are Region 2. We are one of the longest running equity assistance centers in the United States. And Paula can talk a little bit more about that.
Yes, I noticed that we had friends from Virginia, which is one of the states in our region, and then, or I'm sorry, the Commonwealth of Virginia. And then also Colorado, which I was like super happy about. We are one of 4 equity assistance centers. We have a grant from the Department of Education that allows us to work with school districts across a 12-state region, which is the South, Texas to Florida and up to the District of Columbia, on issues of equity in across race, gender, national origin, and religion. And that can be, like, for us, that means STEM, that means English learner instruction, that means bullying and harassment or implicit bias because of school climates that are not as welcoming to all students, not inclusive of all students. It talks to disparate discipline practices that result in overpopulation or overrepresentation of African American and Hispanic students in exclusionary discipline practices. But there's so many things. It depends on the district. So we do restorative practices. We talk about building relationships with families between school and community stakeholders. There's a variety of things, and we have a second website, www.idraeacsouth.org, idraeacsouth.org, and you can find more information about that there.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you everyone for attending. It was a great webinar. I hope you guys found it helpful. And again, just thank you to CSO Zion and Adeseli for assisting us with the student perspectives. Again, you guys are why we're here. You guys are why we're all in business, and supporting you is definitely our main goal. So again, thank you. Thank you everyone. And this is it. Have a good day, and we'll see you all next week.